Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, look, I'm having a bit of anxiety towards water, and it has a lot to do with today's game. Not that water is bad, you shouldn't necessarily be afraid of it, but you should be afraid of Death in the Water 2, which is the horror game that I discovered on Steam not that long ago, which is the reason I'm in this predicament. So, without further ado, let's talk about the game.
Unlike other games of this type, Death in the Water 2 holds a candle to the current genre of underwater horror games. Thalassophobia is the fear of deep water, and the developers of today's game knew how to drive that fear into the hearts of the player. The overall vibe I get while playing it is I'm not alone, I'm being watched, and I'm nowhere near any sign of life or human help. It's a very isolating yet powerful experience. Death in the Water 2 is an indie game on Steam that I had the pleasure of discovering a while ago. Only recently did I get a chance to play it for an extended amount of time. Unfortunately, I don't own Subnautica as of right now, but that's another game I plan on reviewing in the distant future, once the fucking price drops again, anyway. I'll briefly comment on the same idea from when I covered Drowning Simulator. I think we all have an uneasy attraction to water. Sometimes it's great to walk on a hot beach with nothing but the ocean breathing life into your salted body as you let the sun kiss every individual drop on your skin. However, most of us would find water on our mostly hydrated sphere of life to be quite a terrifying concept. I mean, what's under the fucking waves? Sharks? Great, nature's deadliest predator. Or how about eels? Those fuckers bite you, you're in a whole mess of trouble. What do both of these events share in common? These are just two of the very familiar sights you'll come across when playing through Death in the Water 2. The player takes control of a marine biologist / fish murderer equipped with a special hook gun as he navigates the ocean floor in hopes to find goodies and return them for a profit. You use this said profit as a means of upgrading or buying new gear that you may want and can't have access to yet. You're supposed to avoid the dangers of the wildlife beneath the tides as you trek deeper and further into the great beyond, searching for things like ammunition for your tools and treasure chests which contain an abundance of loot. In all honesty, I don't think I'd ever do this in reality. The idea of being underwater with my fucking eyes closed is scary enough. What makes you think I want to see the threats that lurk in the darkness? We have quite a few different common fish in the roster that will serve as predators to your deep dive. The devs did a great job of incorporating how underwater shooting works. Timing your shot matters a lot in the spur of the moment, and sharks can take up to 3 of your harpoon bolts depending on the state of your gear and where you hit them. The environment underneath the waves is fantastically designed. The reef bed just looks so natural and uncanny. I like seeing the massive fields of seaweed and the unending coral sprouts, the various types of fish and the schools of them that band together as they navigate the dark ocean they call home. It's just so majestic. I really can't believe this game was made by just 2 people. The quality is really up there. And what do you know? Our character comes with a 3D rendered body. Fuck yeah! Normally this isn't a major issue for me in most modern games, but every single time I see it, I'm beyond impressed and my hopes shoot straight to the sky with possibility. I don't know, it just adds that depth of realism that a lot of first-person games lack. I'd argue that this game is infinitely creepier than Drowning Simulator, but that's obviously an unfair comparison. Death in the Water 2 is meant to be a more hands-on experience, putting the player physically into the danger and giving them little to work with to find a way out. Drowning Simulator was more so a grounded in reality PSA to warn you of what could happen if you don't take the proper precautions while at sea. I don't know about you, but playing a game like this is ripe for heebie-jeebies. Every few seconds, I can't help but look over my shoulder in fear I'm gonna see something I want to forget. It's definitely one of the best underwater games I've played, and works perfectly to capture the pure isolation of the deep depths. The sound design is really damn good. If you wear headphones while playing, it feels like you're actually wearing the snorkel mask, and every slight surface of the ocean floor will scrape against you if you get close enough with the proper ambiance to follow it up. It feels like I'm actually under the water diving. Let's go over the compendium, starting with the enemies I personally encountered and why they add a layer of fear to the gameplay that helps sell that overwhelming effect. Oddly enough, when I tried to look up a full list of the enemies, I couldn't find shit. It surprises me that this game isn't more talked about. Anyway, your most common threats are probably going to be standard bull sharks. They hunt in packs, swim very fast, and can chomp on your face in a blink. They're no joke, as they can charge you without warning from any distance. It's great that they are so animated, imitating behavioral patterns of real-life sharks as they circle around you, their shadows casting onto the player like a bad omen. Down here, humans don't make the rules. The sharks will remind you constantly of that. Eels are creepily interesting and will cause heavy damage if provoked. Once they have you in their sights, they attempt to make their move in a slow but steady motion. Their faces remind me of an alien species. Ugh. Fucking hate eels, they're hideous. Snakes will begin spawning later on in the game's story, and they serve as a distraction on top of causing damage to you. Since most underwater snakes are poisonous, it makes sense that their venomous bites will disorient the player, inflicting blurred vision for a brief amount of time. Keep your distance from these goddamn things, and put them down the second you can. Due to their small size though, they're easy to miss. Ah, fuck, see? I can't hit these assholes sometimes. Most of the threats you'll be up against are just variations of different sharks, but they're not all the same in terms of tactics. The standard sharks will make predictable movements and more than likely just chase you in a linear fashion, whereas something like a sand tiger shark will hover close above, waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and bite you. They also absorb much more damage, making them a nuisance in battle. Then you have mako sharks, which are like the extreme version of the standard ones. Mako sharks will dart at you in a sporadic, almost desperate way. If they hit you, they'll normally swim far out into the depths where you lose visual, and attempt to ambush you from a new angle. Mako sharks also swim faster than the others, making them a genuinely tough foe in the heat of things. Killing them will grant you an extremely high score, which is good for anyone who cares about that sort of thing, but I just care about getting them out of my fucking way. Utilizing the vast oceanic landscape, you can evade the sharks by swimming through cargo containers, shipwrecks, rock canals, ancient ruins, and so on. Thankfully, it is fair in terms of allowing you to get away if you're overwhelmed, and trust me, you're gonna be. We haven't even gotten started here. Each dive consists of an objective. Find the treasure chests that are marked on your overhead compass. While doing this, you may have to ward off some curious wildlife that invades your personal space. Once opened, the chests will reveal a pile of golden loot. Collecting these, as I stated, will grant you money to spend on upgrades and tools. Improving your suit or weapons will be the most efficient way to survive, considering the threats only get worse as time goes on. I'll be honest, the first 4 dives are nothing but sharks and eels and snakes with an occasional horde wave at the end, so it did feel a little repetitive at first. However, this was quickly negated as I progressed. I was attacked by a giant squid, and it gave me so much anxiety with its intimidating speed and size. I mean, Jesus, that thing is slapping me the fuck around. I would be dead by this point. He's a really scary enemy because he blends in well with his environment and can ambush you by swimming away and coming from behind. You want to talk about scary? Look at this colossal thing! You're telling me they have fucking hammerhead sharks in this game? And they're expert hunters. Most of the time they let the smaller sharks engulf you in an overwhelming pattern, learning the environment to figure out the best way to eat you alive. I kid you not when I say they made so many chills run down my spine.
And I'm coming.
Using the glowing toolboxes scattered everywhere, the player can expect to refill any ammunition, med supplies, and anti-venom syringes by opening them. You'll just have to be quick, considering all the shit chasing after you constantly. After you've gathered all the necessary chests, the objective will then become eliminating the possessed animals around you. Yes, the story goes that these animals are all being controlled telepathically by some sort of kraken creature, instructing them all to kill the ocean's intruders, aka you. So most of the missions boil down to a horde wave mode, which a lot of people aren't going to be a fan of. Normally, in any other game, I would consider it pretty stupid, yet this game likes to throw variety into the mix often with its various species of sea life and complex infrastructure, not to mention the overall tension of never truly feeling safe with the amount of different areas the enemies can actually get into. The tools you get for Under the Ocean are extremely useful with different options for each. The starting harpoon gun has a very slow firing rate, but packs a powerful punch. There's the Manta Ray, which is a small explosive handheld tool that resembles a rocket pistol. You fire timed darts into the skin of an enemy, and moments later, the darts explode, causing heavy damage to the target. It's a rather effective gun, and it usually helps me feel safer knowing I have it unlocked. Things are only going to get bigger down here, so I might as well fucking prepare. And unlike Subnautica, there's no safety of a submarine or anything. You only have your 2 human legs to swim away from danger, which actually reminds me of what I wanted to discuss next, and I'm sorry, I know. These reviews are sometimes all over the place, so how about we take a dive into some bullshit real quick? Well, let's go exploring some of the complaints I have with the game, because it's only fair that I balance this video accordingly. And there's a lot I want to go over, as usual, so hang on tight. You can hold shift to swim faster, but it doesn't do much. You're a human being trapped in a colander of bigger fish that swim faster and hit harder than you do. The ability to escape or run away is completely absent, since the ultimate goal of each level becomes survival, which does feel a bit tedious. I was expecting a gripping storyline for starters, but there isn't much of one. You're kinda just a scuba diver working for a generic company, collecting shit and dodging fish. There's a narrator who speaks to you through the radio to kind of give you updates about the lore, but it's all very vague. At the end of each mission, the kraken's telepathic control will overcome the wildlife, and you have to kill them all. If you aim for the face on sharks, you have a higher chance of dealing major damage, but what does it matter when you have 6 poisonous snakes coming after you or 2 fucking hammerheads? My point is, you're gonna be grinding a lot for those special treasure chests at the bottom of the ocean to be able to afford the nicer gear that I'll touch upon later. Let's talk about the sirens. They swim towards you wielding these creepy spears and screeching at you with their ugly mugs. They're really cool, and I was happy I finally got to fight some, but why the fuck did I have to wait so long? The first 8 missions in this game consist of nothing but sharks, eels, and snakes. And I've read from some of the Steam reviews on the official store page for the game that some players were unhappy with this. Rightfully so. I mean, every dive mission in the beginning feels like a total fucking grind up until you finally see some new shit and you start to get a little excited. I thought it was safe to expect all kinds of underwater legends to face. I guess one could make the argument that the game loves to build up to its next threat, so it takes a good while to see the scary stuff. Even though they're not the biggest threat, I unfortunately think sirens are the most unique enemy in the whole game. I mean, you thought the hammerhead was the biggest shark? Haha, just wait until you meet the great white. Yeah, they hunt in the smartest way, often ambushing you after flanking while its lackeys give chase, and they're beefy sons of bitches. You'll have to unload everything you have into them, or else you're gonna make for a quick and easy lunch. It is a very overwhelming feeling to fight off these gigantic, sometimes beautiful creatures. This is the first horror game I've played in a long time that makes me feel so much smaller than everything else, and puts the odds against you any chance it can. It's a riveting and unique experience. I love the concept of being able to swim through shipwrecks and cargo boxes that have long been abandoned since they sunk into this abysmal place, but it doesn't feel very rewarding to venture out on your own with the mission area limitations and the overall objective. You're kinda just gathering treasure, that's pretty much it, and then surviving waves of sharks. The core gameplay loop is finding chests and avoiding danger, ultimately just to fight said danger against your will later on. This will become tedious, I'm sure, but I'd argue the thrill is more so when you're directly engaging with them and your equipment and weaponry is all upgraded. Some of the fights are really cinematic too, I don't know, I like them. Now, creating games is hard, and from what I understand, like I said before, this game was only developed by 2 people. If that's the case, then by God, they've earned the right to call themselves developers. This is a really fucking impressive project for only 2 people. And with all the in-depth mechanics at play, such as having a visible body, accurate movements to the animals underwater, the florals and environmental conditions, it's a miracle that the game actually slaps. That being said, it is obvious that the devs used some AI-generated artwork to promote a lot of their in-game accolades and title cards. And, annoyingly enough, the narrator in the main story is definitely an AI-generated voice. Hey, normally I complain and moan for hours about how using AI in your game is lazy and probably shouldn't define it, but these guys found a way to incorporate AI without it being intrusive to the core experience. Look, designing your own game's artwork can be expensive and frustrating if you don't know anybody in the space, though I still would have liked to see a little more creative effort than having a fucking computer do it. I want to talk about the equipment again. The Kraken shotgun is devastatingly powerful. I'd say it's downright fucking overkill. Look, you can easily destroy a shark or something with just a few blasts. Once you unlock it, the ability to stop using it becomes difficult. There's something really satisfying about blasting sharks in this game, and the Kraken shotgun helps to sell that effect tenfold. You apparently get to use an LMG too, known as the Hellfire. It doesn't shoot like a minigun, but its firing rate is a lot higher than the other weapons. It helps to push back an oncoming enemy that might be much bigger than yourself. It works wonders against the Mako sharks too. Fucking assholes. Last but not least, you can unlock an extremely powerful sniper harpoon called the Poseidon, which launches a massive bolt into your targets at a devastating speed. It has so much stopping power, it's enough to kill even the Mako in one shot to the face. I love the Poseidon, despite its long reload time. You get a couple of defensive items like chum grenades, which distract the enemies for a brief amount of time, and flashbangs, which will temporarily stun them, giving you some leeway for either a better angle or retreat. These can be upgraded too. I'm aware that these weapons are probably not very realistic in terms of underwater physics, but that's the beauty of video games. It's not designed to represent the true nature of scuba diving or, I guess, shark murdering. It's just a really cool idea with a well-executed concept, and I'd say that Death in the Water 2 is worthy of being labeled as badass. So far, the worst enemy in the game for me are the Makos. Yeah, could you tell I've only fucking brought them up 6 times? It's not a complaint by any means. I enjoy how they work around you and play it tactical, almost relaxing up near the surface of the water while the smaller, weaker sharks pursue you. Then, just when your back is turned and there's a perfect window, the Mako makes its move and takes a chomp out of my fucking leg. What's worse is they're the fastest shark. As I said, you can't even outswim them. And they have so much flexibility. It's like having a leech stuck on your leg. You gotta watch out for the Mako sharks. The sirens are interesting, but mainly just launch spears at you from a distance and can even jab you if you get too close. There's nothing more satisfying than landing a headshot on the bitch though. Yeah, did you guys see that? I fucked her up. Most of the time, the game serves as a great challenge, often throwing multiple species of shark against you in what may seem an unfair way, but if you examine the landscape carefully and use the environment to your advantage, hiding in crashed planes or cargo containers or boats, hugging rock walls, and even the seabed will save your life. But I still need to give it the fair criticism it deserves. I already told you that sprinting is kinda pathetic in this game, and it takes a while to recharge too, even if you've fully upgraded the suit's capabilities. It didn't make much sense to me to have this mechanic at all, but it does make sense that you can't just expect to swim away from a fucking shark. Yeah, next time I see a great white or a hammerhead, I'll just outswim it. Good joke. Another issue is the simple fact that you don't even have to kill all the creatures to complete the mission. Yeah, it's kind of dropping this bombshell. If you take too long, the game will just feel bad for you and end itself on a timer. You won't get as good of a score, but you'll still be able to proceed. This made me feel stupid because sometimes I wanted to explore the map or ended up losing the final enemy, and the game would just decide, nope, you're done here. On the adjacent side of that same coin, it's easy to get lost, and you'll sometimes end up in limbo or some other place where the enemies can't spawn or get to you. I'm not sure why this happens, but it felt like a drag the more and more it went on. Whenever you take damage, your screen goes black for an instant, disorienting you and often leading to unfair deaths caused by a flurry of sharks circling you because you couldn't see where the fuck you were going. In my opinion, I like the upgrades, but they don't implement much. After you've fully upgraded everything, you'll still feel the same as you did in the beginning, though certain tasks become slightly easier, such as aiming better, shooting better, and your weapons reloading faster. I'm a little disappointed there aren't any animations for reloading. Instead, you kinda just take your gun off screen and bring it back. This reminds me of GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, which is a reference I have long forgotten. I could go on, but there aren't honestly many issues with Death in the Water 2. It's a very well put together indie game that delivers on what it promises: isolation and fear of the ocean's atrocities. Let's go ahead and conclude this aquamarine anarchy with the game's surprisingly effective final boss level, the last dive. The player must pursue the Kraken in its den, located across a body of open water with no clear visibility. Sharks and snakes and just about everything else under the sun will come forth to strike you down under the order of the massive beast. Then, as you enter its chambers and alert it to your presence, you're forced to engage in what I'd like to think was one of the coolest cinematic fights in a horror game all year. The Kraken is a tough son of a bastard bitch, and he outsmarts you with both his impressive size and tactics. The creature summons its lackeys to come after you, and using all the equipment you have at your disposal, it's up to the player to end this mythological colossus and bring peace back to the waters. The fight lasts for a while, and there's something really intimidating about the sheer force of the Kraken. His orange eyes follow the player everywhere they go as his sledgehammer tentacles whip and pull you around. He's capable of releasing a cloud of black ink to disorient and confuse you, which is a highly effective and realistic strategy that I'd expect an octopus to do in real life. Animals have all kinds of natural hereditary defense mechanisms, and I've never seen a game utilize the true anatomy of these beautiful yet dangerously interesting enemies before. Hell, are they really even enemies? To be honest, we are the intruders. This is their water after all, and we just came down here to start murdering the sharks. Maybe there's a deeper theme here about humanity being the giant mutant octopus and sticking their greedy tentacles into anything that might spell profit for them. But enough of that shit, I'm about to kill the Kraken. Whew, well, that's what I call a goddamn indie game. Death in the Water 2 was a delight. Interestingly enough, I had never heard of the first game, but now I might just check it out thanks to its awesome sequel. This is more than a horror game, especially if you're playing with headphones in the dark. You feel like you are constantly being chased and watched, examined, tested, and hunted. There are plenty of scaringly interesting pieces to the overall puzzle here, and I do truly believe it deserves way more attention. I want to give a huge shout out to the two developers of this game. In my career, I don't think there will be another game like it. It's a fantastic, yet dark and abysmal game with lots of interesting lore to explore. Hopefully you guys keep making some great games, and I can only wish you the best of luck in the future. My only constructive advice to you guys would be, maybe wean off the AI shit. It kinda puts people off. If you're somehow still not convinced, I would recommend just trying it for a few minutes. Utilize Steam's refund policy and dive into the unknown yourselves in order to defeat the Kraken and bring humanity back to the waters. For now. Thank you all so much for watching, and guys, thank you again for 1,500 subs. We've come a long way together, and I've been grinding out content, having a fantastic time making videos, and just feeling myself once again. I hope you're all enjoying your day, and I'll see you all again soon.